Wasiy's the family's cautionary tale. The words hit like a tossed beer can casual, meant to bounce off and keep the party moving. The rooftop bar erupted anyway. Loud laughter. A couple of claps. Someone whistled like my older brother had just landed a killer joke instead of a cheap shot. My brother Adrian leaned against the high-top table, grinning like the whole city skyline was there to applaud him. My aunt laughed too hard. My mom smiled that familiar, tight smile, polite on the outside, satisfied underneath. I didn't laugh. I didn't glare either. I just took a slow sip of water and watched the room the way I always did, quietly, carefully, like I was counting exits. My name is Wasiy Rahman. I'm 30 years old. In my family, I'm the quiet one, the one who doesn't have ambition, the one they stopped asking about because I stopped correcting them. Tonight was supposed to be Adrian's celebration, his founder's night. His company had landed another major contract and he rented out the rooftop to impress clients, investors, and anyone who might post him on LinkedIn in the morning. String lights, a hired DJ, custom cocktails named after his entrepreneur journey. And me? I was background decoration. That's why he said it. Because for years, making me the punchline was the easiest way to make himself feel like the headline. Adrian raised his glass again, riding the laughter like a wave. Seriously, he said, still smiling. Some people are born to build empires. He glanced at me. And some people are born too. Watch. More laughter. Less comfortable this time. I didn't move, but my eyes drifted past him, toward the corner near the bar. A man in a navy suit had stopped smiling. He wasn't family. Not even a friend of a friend type. He looked like someone who didn't come for the music or the drinks or the rooftop view. He looked like someone who came for information. His gaze locked on me. Steady and exact, not pity. Not curiosity, recognition. That was the moment the air changed, the way it changes right before a storm you didn't believe was coming. Adrian didn't notice. He never noticed shifts unless the spotlight moved. He kept going. You know what's funny? Adrian said, voice louder now. Wasiy always acted like he was too good for the family business. He shrugged. Turns out he just wasn't good enough for any business. A few laughs died in people's throats. A woman near the appetizer stared down into her drink like it suddenly had secrets. My mother's hand brushed my shoulder, not comfort, control. A reminder. Stay small. Stay easy. Don't ruin the night. I set my glass down gently, still calm. The man in the navy suit took a step forward, then another. Adrian's grin stayed in place, but his eyes flicked like he'd sensed something moving in the room that wasn't following his script. The man's voice was quiet, but it cut clean. Adrian Hale? Adrian blinked. Yeah? Quick question, the man said, adjusting his cuff like he was about to sign something, not speak. Is Wasiy Rahman your brother? Adrian laughed. Unfortunately, some people laughed with him automatically, like trained reflex. The man didn't. He looked at me, then back to Adrian. Interesting, he said. Because you've been pitching my firm all evening, and you still don't know who he is. The rooftop went still. Even the DJ seemed to lower the music without being told. Adrian's smile twitched. I'm not sure what you mean. The man didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He didn't need to. He simply said, Wasiy Rahman is Senior Risk Director at Blackridge Capital. A pause. A visible, uncomfortable pause. Then he added, Blackridge holds the primary node on your company's operating line. Silence snapped across the rooftop like a rope pulled tight. My mom's face changed, first confusion, then alarm, then something close to embarrassment. Adrian's mouth opened. Nothing came out. The man continued, calm, clinical. You've requested a covenant waiver. Twice. You've asked for an extension. 3 times. And you've been telling everyone your numbers are strong enough to speak for themselves. He glanced at Adrian's glass. Apparently, you're more confident in your jokes than your financials. Someone near the edge of the crowd whispered, Oh my God. Adrian's voice finally found air. Wait, Wasiy. That's not. I stood up, not dramatically, not angrily, just fully. And it was strange how fast the room recalibrated once I wasn't sitting anymore. I didn't smile wide. I didn't frown. I gave Adrian the same expression I'd given him my whole life, neutral enough to survive him. I didn't lie, I said. I just didn't advertise. Adrian shook his head, laughing too fast. Since when are you senior whatever? Why didn't you tell us? Us. Now it was us. I looked at my mother, and she wouldn't meet my eyes. That stung more than Adrian's joke, because Adrian had always been loud about who he was. My mother had always been quiet about who I wasn't. I'm under confidentiality agreements, I said, and honestly, no one ever asked. The man in the navy suit stepped back half a pace, giving me the space like this was my conversation now. Adrian tried to recover like he always did. Like charm was a fire extinguisher and he'd never learned any other tool. Okay, he said, laughing again. This is getting weird. It was just a joke. Can we not? I'm not here to humiliate you, I said, voice steady. Adrian exhaled like he'd just been granted mercy. Then I added, but I am here to stop being your entertainment. My mom finally spoke, voice soft and pleading. Wasiy, honey, please, tonight is important for your brother? I nodded. It is. Adrian's shoulders loosened like he thought that meant I'd back down. I didn't. I reached into my pocket and felt my phone buzz one vibration, then another. I didn't check it right away. Adrian saw the movement anyway. His eyes darted to my pocket like he was watching a magician's sleeve. What is that? He asked, too sharp. I lifted the phone, glanced once, then looked back at him. It's a confirmation, I said. Adrian's voice cracked slightly. Confirmation of what? I stepped away from the table to take the call because some moments deserve a little privacy even if the people in front of you never gave you any. Yes, I said into the phone. Proceed. A pause. And document everything. I ended the call and slid the phone back into my pocket. When I turned around, Adrian was standing now, his face half confusion, half fear. What did you just do? He demanded. I didn't rush my answer. Blackridge is initiating a formal review, I said. Effective Monday morning. Adrian stared like he didn't understand the language, even though he built his whole personality around business terms. You can't do that, he said quickly. My company is fine. We're growing. You signed a contract you can't fulfill without burning cash you don't have, I said. And you've been covering it with short-term credit and long-term optimism. His eyes widened. You've been watching me? I tilted my head slightly. That's literally my job. The man in the navy suit, Calvin, his name tag red, spoke quietly to someone beside him, then looked back at Adrian. This isn't personal, Calvin said. It's risk. Adrian snapped. Stay out of this. Calvin didn't flinch. I am in this. Your company owes my firm 8 figures. That number didn't just land. It sank. People shifted backward instinctively, like debt was contagious. Adrian looked at me like he was seeing a stranger wearing my face. You're doing this here? He hissed. In front of everyone. I held his gaze. You started here. In front of everyone. My mother stepped in, voice trembling. Wasiy, sweetheart, don't take it out on him. Families tease. You know how Adrian is. I stared at her for a long beat. You know what's wild? I said quietly. You've said that my whole life, like it's weather, like it can't change. Her eyes filled. That's not, it is, I said. And I'm done adapting to it. Adrian's voice turned urgent, low, ugly, like he was trying to drag me back into the old dynamic where he could control the temperature with a joke. He followed me toward the side of the rooftop where the city lights were brighter and the crowd was farther. Wasiy, stop, he said. You're overreacting. You're being spiteful. I didn't stop walking. He grabbed my arm, not hard enough to bruise, but hard enough to remind me he still thought he could. I looked down at his hand, then back at his face. He let go. We're brothers, he said. Like that word was a shield. We're family. You don't do this to family. I nodded slowly. Family is also not supposed to make you the punchline for sport. His jaw clenched. You could have warned me. I leaned in slightly, not threatening, just close enough that he couldn't perform for anyone. You could have respected me, I said. He swallowed. For the first time in my life, Adrian didn't have a comeback ready. Behind us, I could hear murmurs rising like smoke. The mood of the rooftop had shifted from celebration to spectacle. His clients weren't laughing anymore. They were calculating, and that terrified him more than anything I'd said. You're going to ruin everything I built, he whispered. I shook my head. No, I'm going to stop pretending your mess is a masterpiece. His eyes flashed. You think you're better than me now? I answered honestly. I think I'm done being smaller so you can feel bigger. He stared at me, breathing hard, like his whole identity was fighting for oxygen. Then he tried another tactic softer. Wasiy, come on. Tell them it's fine. Tell them it's nothing. Just help me, please. I watched him carefully, not with hatred, with clarity. Because the truth was, I didn't want him destroyed. I wanted him accountable. I'm not canceling the review, I said, but you can still handle it like a professional. His voice shook. How? I spoke evenly. Stop performing. Start cooperating. Provide clean books. Disclose the vendor conflicts. Remove the inflated projections. And for once, listen when someone tells you the truth. Adrian looked away, eyes glossy under the string lights. He nodded once, barely. Then the rooftop doors opened and my mother's voice carried over the music. She was crying now, calling my name like I was running away instead of finally standing still. That sound used to break me. Tonight it didn't. Because I realized something in that moment. My family didn't need me weak. They just needed me convenient. Monday morning, I was in a glass conference room with a view of the river and a table that cost more than my first car. 2 attorneys. 2 analysts. Calvin at the end of the table with a laptop open and no expression. Adrian wasn't there. Instead, at 8:12 a.m., an email arrived. Subject line, resignation, 1 paragraph. Dismissed. Polished. Signed with a title he no longer had the authority to use. By 8:20, the board accepted it. No speeches. No drama. Just action. That's what people do when money is real and consequences aren't jokes. At 11:47, my phone rang. Mom. I answered. Her voice was quiet, like she was calling from a room where she didn't want anyone to hear her shame. Was it worth it? She asked. I stared at the city below, cars flowing, people moving forward without waiting for permission. I didn't do it to hurt him, I said. I did it to stop disappearing. She exhaled shakily. I didn't know you were like that. I closed my eyes. That, I said, is exactly the problem. A few weeks later, there was another family gathering. Smaller, quieter, no rooftop, no DJ, no performance. My chair was there. So was Adrian's, but it stayed empty. People spoke to me differently. Not overly respectful, not afraid, just aware. But they'd finally noticed I had weight. My aunt offered me food like nothing had happened. My uncle asked about my work and actually listened. My mom hovered near the doorway for a while, watching me like she was trying to rewrite the story in her head where I stayed small and safe. Calvin wasn't there, of course, but one of Adrian's former clients was. He nodded at me once, simple, respectful, and went back to his conversation. No one called me a cautionary tale again, not because I threatened them, not because I won, but because the truth finally caught up with the version of me they've been using for entertainment. And once the truth walks into the room, it doesn't need permission to stand.